All right. Alan, you ready? You got the after lunch spot. Lucky you. All right, this is Alan Bodel from the Combined Arms Support Command. We're really excited to have ASCOM up here talking about how they use Blackboard. I also want to introduce real quick Val Wilkinson. Val, you want to raise your hand? She's the Lifelong Learning Center chief down at Fort Eustis, and it's the Army's been a tremendous partner of ours for the last 15 years as well. And CASCOM made a big transition over the last 2 years from a .mil system to using our cloud-based services, and they did all this right as the pandemic was ramping up and had a ton of success. And Alan's going to talk to you all today about his mission, what they do at CASCOM, and how they operate. So Alan, I'll turn it over to you. Let's give him a round of applause.
I think I have. Good afternoon, everyone. I do not have to use the microphone. That's good news. The bad news is they tell me that if I have to wait 5 seconds, I have to do it in the front lean and rest. So I'd like to find out where our corpsman is. Just in case I have to go down, we'll end the session right away at that point. Okay. A couple of admin notes before I get started. I understand, I know you guys had a great lunch, and for those of you that went back for seconds, I got a 172 slide presentation. Got 30 minutes to do it. And so with any luck, by the time I'm done, you'll just be waking up. Okay? So good to go. Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks Anthology for inviting me and this opportunity to speak to you. So what I'm going to go through here is a little bit about what we did. This is kind of our purpose and agenda for today. And I'm going to start out by just trying to tell you a little bit about what CASCOM is, how we're spread out, the different entities, and then kind of go through this list, what we did, our posture before 24th of March of 2020, so 2 years ago to the day almost, and then what we did in response to the COVID pandemic. It's kind of what I'm going to do today. All right, so an overview. This is what CASCOM is. A lot of information, real busy slide. The big part of this slide that's important is going to be the bottom left, the orange part there. And you can see we train 240,000 students a year annually. That's what our number is. That represents about 35% of TRADOC's output every year. TRADOC is one of the big major commands for the Army. Okay. We operate 3 non-commissioned officer academies and 5 proponencies. What is a proponency? So the Ordnance School, the Quartermaster School, the Transportation School, the Finance and Comptroller School, the Adjutant General School, the School of Music is part of the Adjutant General School. We also have the EOD component, which is phase 1 of the EOD for the Army. The proponent for EOD is the Navy. So we do the phase 1 and then send them down to the Navy down in Florida. And then also the Defense Ammunition Center out of McAlester, Oklahoma. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else important on here we need to talk about. 54,000 civilians for the Army, logisticians and sustainers across the Army. 54,000 will do training for them as well. Okay. Couple quick slides. This is just kind of to show how we are spread out across the country here. You can see that we have to reach all 3 of our components, which is active duty Army, the Army National Guard, and also the Army Reserve, and of course the civilians. So you can see this is the Quartermaster School and training locations across the country. This is going to be the Transportation School. Keep in mind, transportation also does the boats that the Army has. The Army has more boats than the Navy. That was really a sad thing for me because I wore my blue and gold to represent because I'm a retired Navy guy too. And I also wore my Army pin to represent. So you can see where I lie a little bit. So more boats than the Navy. So there are a lot down at Fort Eustis. And so it was kind of disheartening for me to hear that, but we do that training. Great simulator down there as well. Okay. The Ordnance School. Let's see if this thing's still working. The Ordnance School training sites. Finance and Comptroller School. AG School and School of Music. Defense Ammunition Center, like I talked about, out in McAlester, Oklahoma, and a couple of other spots. That's how we're spread out. We're spread out across the country. So it's important to note that because to have a digital presence is so important for us because we have people trying to access our training from all over the country. That's also with our functional training. the TRADOC has about 200 functional courses that are not specific tech courses that are follow-on training. We have 56 of those. Okay, so if you're sitting in Germany in an Army installation over there, you're liable to be taking one of our courses. If you're sitting in Korea, you can be taking one of our courses. Okay, or we might send people out there to it. So to have that digital presence is critical for us. What was our posture on 24 March, 2 years ago? This is our posture. Really hard to see, especially for old guys like myself, okay? But we had 391 courses. We had 391 courses, and that represents upwards of just south of 15,000 lesson plans, okay? At that time, we had about 67 courses that had a digital presence. Now, that doesn't mean we were teaching virtually. What that means is we had a digital presence. A lot of those courses were just on our Blackboard.mil as content management site or content management pieces, okay? So we had them on there. In a resident course, you can access it that way and use it that way. We can use it to kind of manage assessments and tests and attendance and comments and surveys and things like that, okay? This is an example of where we were at that time. This is a course, our Captain's Career Training Department. There's a Logistics Captain's Career course, and pretty busy slide, but we have this digital presence, and I'll be able to show you the knowledge management piece, how we're managing our knowledge on the next slide. But this was one of our courses. This is the course that kind of got me in trouble, okay? And I'll explain that to you in just a minute. This is how we were managing our knowledge. We had content management on Blackboard and SharePoint and our Mill Suite site. Okay, so you could access it in the classroom on Blackboard.mil, and we could manage the class. We could go through, you could pull it up, we could take tests, we could manage the tests, see how you were doing, put comments in, counseling sessions, and so on. Okay, if you were out in the field then, and you wanted to reach back and get some of that training, you could do it off of the Mill Suite site. The SharePoint site, we had the curriculum, and that was kind of our system of record. That way, because on the Blackboard site, you might have class 1 over here, class 2 over here, class 3, class 4, and we want to make sure that the curriculum stays the same. So people can go in and we will replicate the shell for each one of those classes, and if something happens where they go in and they might make a change to the curriculum by accident, they can always go back to the SharePoint site because those are kind of what we'll call locked files. So only certain people can go in there and make changes. So we know that the stuff that's on the SharePoint is the most up to date. Okay, emergency response timeline. This is what happened 2 years ago. I'm sure we all remember some of these events, right? COVID was approaching. We'll go down this real quick. I don't need to read all these to you. A couple of big hitters though. March 20th, we, CASCOM, begin maximum telework procedures for workforce. So we're sending the workforce home at this point. Anybody that we can, saying, hey, go on home. Pandemic, we don't know what the environment's like, so go on home, right? The CG on March 24th, a day that I'll remember the rest of my life, issues orders for immediate transition of all courses to DL and digital platforms. March 25th, Secretary of Defense raises the health protection condition to Charlie, and issues a 60-day stop movement order, okay? Now, another thing that's important to note, we teach from the AIT, Advanced Individual Training, so you go to boot camp, and then you go to an MOS training, brand new soldiers, brand new lieutenants. You go to college, and your first training, we teach that. But we also teach all the way up to lieutenant colonels and colonels who are getting ready to take command. So we teach all the PME, the leadership classes that we're talking about. So when we talk about a continuum of training into education, we teach the whole spectrum, okay? And a lot of those are skill-based training things. So for instance, I grew up as a gun bunny. So when I first entered the military, I worked on guns a lot. If you can imagine, I'm gonna try to teach you virtually how to work on a gun. That presents a whole problem set, right? How do you do that? And we got to make sure it works. So you got to get creative. You want someone, here's a better one. Do you want someone packing your parachute if they've never touched it, but they saw it? It's not good enough? I don't know why. Sounds, hey, virtual training stuff's good though, isn't it? It's a good deal. No? So it's not good for all things, right? So we began a tactical pause on March 30th. A lot of the COEs, the Centers of Excellence, now there's 10 Centers of Excellence in the Army. We're just one of them, okay? But a lot of the Centers of Excellence, not a lot, a couple of them said, whoa, we don't know what's going on. Cease and desist. Stop. Okay? We stopped for 2 weeks. We stopped to regroup, solidify our position, and determine our way forward. Okay? After 2 weeks, we began to teach. Because I'm gonna let you know, in case you don't remember, the pipeline of recruits didn't stop. They kept coming. And since we're teaching that AIT, that bottom level, we're still getting them. We gotta figure out what to do. And we created a bubble. Has anyone heard this about the military? Created a safe bubble, right? You gotta go someplace. We've tested you, and you're safe. You're okay. We're only put you in a certain place with other safe people, and we're not gonna let you get infected by other people. So we create a safe bubble. How do we teach those people? This is our problem set that we're dealing with. So we stopped only for 2 weeks so that we could create the infrastructure and the plan to move forward. Okay, here's a big part of the presentation. I want to see if this works. Okay. On the 23rd of March, I'd been in position, I'd been promoted about 10 months prior, and I'm happy. I got a good team, happy with my team, happy with my job, okay? Got some good life outside playing. I play some golf, ride a motorcycle. I'm a pretty happy guy, right? Well, I'm like, I'm good. I'm in a good spot. I'm a quiet professional. I don't need the spotlight. I'm good. I'm looking good. Bling, bling, bling. My phone rings. The president of Army Logistics University calls me and says, hey, Al, I got a meeting with the CG tomorrow, with the commanding general, and it's talking about Blackboard. And I got a couple questions because I want to make sure I don't paint myself into a corner. Not a problem, sir. What are they? Go through it with them like you're supposed to. You answer, right? It's a lesson. Be careful where you answer, okay? So he said, thanks, Al. I think I'm all set. Not a problem. Tomorrow morning, ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Uh-oh, it's the president again. Yes, sir. Hey, Al, I want you in this meeting with me. Roger that. He said, I just want you back there as support, backup in case they start asking some technical questions. Roger that, sir. Can you see me walking into the ambush? Because I clearly didn't see it. I'm like, hey, the president needs me. Ooh, I'm there for you. So I go to the meeting with him. And 24 March, this is the symbol for an ambush. I did not realize that I had walked into an ambush. And anyone who's studied any kind of small unit tactics, probably the worst kind of ambush is an L ambush. See him? He's got it over there. He knows it. That's what I walked into, an L ambush. One of my favorite sayings is poor situational awareness, once realized, already owns you. Well, I walked into the meeting and it owned me, okay? So the CG says, Mr. President, his name was Mr. Williams, you guys have pushed out some with that captain's course. I like what you're doing. We need to transition the courses, and you're going to be in charge of the transition for all these courses. Now, Army Logistics University was just in charge of all the PME stuff, the captain's course, the NCO courses, just the leadership stuff. All the technical stuff was over at the proponent schools. So our president, Mr. Williams, says, sure, you're just talking about the PME, right? And he says, no, all of it. I want you to do all of it. So he's like, for all of CASCOM? Yeah. He says, who's your guy? To our president, Mr. Williams. And he points at me. That's the face I had. Hold on. It gets better. And then the CG says, and I want it all transitioned in 60 days. Right? Transition to digital must be complete in 60 days. So I'm like, yeah, okay, right, sure, okay? So I'm listening. He says, now hold on. I know that's a tall task for you, but I'm going to let you know something. I'm going to let you assume a little risk, okay? Speed is of the essence, and we will accept some risk. Now, I'm sure that most of us in the room that have been around the military establishment, risk is a 4-letter word. We do everything we can to mitigate risk. We avoid risk. We get rid of risk. We say risk, go the other way. So when the general says to me, we're going to accept a little risk, I'm like, not a problem. Got it. Cool, sir. I'm moving out. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to shoot. Okay? That's where I was, and that's what changed my life. How do we move forward? That was the fun part of the presentation. So you guys can sit back and relax now, settle in, strap in, and have good dreams, okay? How do we respond? We responded in 2 phases. First phase was an emergency response, our 60 days to transition, right? First 60 days, migrate all training, conduct emergency response training. What does that mean? Anybody know what emergency response training is? I'll tell you what it means to us. If we had PowerPoint slides like this, and we're using them in a classroom, and we're given some virtual way to teach it, collaborative way to teach it, we're standing in our classroom, and we're showing these to the people at home. That's emergency response. That is not educationally sound. If you talk to an educator, they're like, oh, that's terrible. You can't do that. Well, we did it because it was an emergency. We had to find a way to continue our training, right? So be prepared to conduct training in an austere environment. Again, speed is of the essence, accept some risk. So I adopted this mantra. As we're moving training into digital platforms and coming up with ways to deliver it, my mantra was this: don't tell me what you can't do, tell me what you can do. So I'm talking to all the leaders of all of these proponent schools, and of course, it's an overwhelming task. It's easy to get bogged down in the negative. Well, we can't do it because of this, we can't do it because of that. Not to mention, I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but there's a big group of people out there that just don't like virtual training or DL training. So they're like, it's not gonna work, can't do it, don't do it. It's a risk, can't do it. That was not my orders. My orders were do it. So I had to find a way, I had to get positive, had to stay positive. So don't tell me what you can't do, let's focus on the positive, tell me what you can do. I stole that from the Ford dealer down there. I saw it on the TV, a commercial, I'm like, hey, a moment of clarity. I'm gonna use that. The next meeting, hey, don't tell me what you can't do, tell me what you can do. And it worked. So I kept doing it, put it on the bottom of every slide I had during phase 1, okay? So phase 2, beyond 60 days. Really what this kind of boils down to is the bottom line. We're gonna stabilize, solidify, and improve our position. So we've moved into that position, we moved into a foxhole, if you will, and we gotta improve that fighting position. And how are we gonna do that? We're gonna do that through some of these things. Now, training developers, 1712, 1750. Those are occupational series. The 1712 is a training specialist, and they do develop training. The 1750 is the instructional design specialist, okay? So they're the ones designing, developing training. We found holes, we found gaps through this process, and we tried to make sure we had lessons learned. I'll go through some of those at the end here too. Am I pressing the right button? No. Yes. All right, here we go. Digitized curriculum, phase 1. Point out some of these, the slides up here, you can take a look at it. Speed is essential. We will accept some risk to effectiveness, but mitigate as much as possible. Complete by 25 May, so 60 days, 25 May. That was Memorial Day weekend, by the way, so I want to make sure we were done and I could blast out and relax, okay? Identify total requirements and available tools to move curriculum or current curriculum to digital platforms. I'll let you know, when we launched out on this, there was a reason I had those 4 guys with the guns, because it was the Wild West, okay? If you can imagine, we've got some people who've got their lesson plans and their courses on blackboard.mil, but nobody's coming to class, so how are they gonna deliver it? We're using Zoom, we're using 1-800-freeconferencecall.com, we're using DCS, everything that we can get our hands on. We did not have access to blackboard.com at the time, so we didn't have a collaborative tool. Microsoft 365 was not given to us yet. It wasn't issued yet. So we were about 2 weeks behind. So once we got that, we started delivering that way. So it was, when we talk about creativity, there were some creative ways that people were delivering stuff. And I want to let you know, the captain's course, there's about a couple hundred captains over there at any one time going through the course, not to mention all the instructors. And those are a bunch of brilliant, young people. And it's like, you know, when you got smart people with too much time on hand, they're going to figure out ways to do stuff. And so we enlisted them, and that's how we got to doing a lot of these delivery methods, because, well, why don't you just use that? Why don't you just do that? Okay, so once we got Microsoft Office, or 365, then I had a whole other problem set, right? And the problem set was, okay, now I got to rein the horses back into the corral. So we went after that and got them all pulled back in, and then as we migrated more into the Blackboard world, it was, again, better, because there were some limitations to the Microsoft as well, okay? Identify instructor training and training developer shortfalls. I mentioned it earlier, big question. Teaching in a virtual environment is completely different, not completely, but very different than teaching in resident. And one of the biggest things about making sure that you have a good environment for teaching in a virtual environment is your communication. And it's so different because you're communicating by typing, by answering messages on a message board, not doing it at 10 o'clock in the middle of the class day, sometimes doing it at 6 or 7 o'clock. And that's what our faculty was having to do. And they had to figure out a way to teach that way. So we came up with a new class for that. The training developers. The developers that we had, the position descriptions were develop training, using the ADDIE process, make sure that the verbs were the correct verbs in your task statements, add in some techniques of delivery, things like that. And that's what we were looking for, okay? We need to change those position descriptions so that we were getting somebody that was capable of doing 3D modeling, developing more interactive multimedia, working with other training aids. We need to find a way to do that and expand our skill set, okay? That was a gap that we found. And then do not inhibit digital solutions already in place. Okay. This is phase 2. We're moving into it. How am I doing on time? No one's asleep yet, right? All right, that's good. I don't hear any snoring. We're doing good. All right, so phase 2, concept of operations, near term, midterm, and long term. We're trying to figure out what we need to focus on and prioritize our work. Okay, one of the things that we did in phase 1 was we stopped all cyclic review of our lesson plans to get after transition. We need to get back into that and come up with our way forward and how to solidify our position. So we need to prioritize, okay? We will mitigate this risk through increased communication and sharing of best practices across the schools and TRADOC. Any questions before I go on? I'll ask. Okay, thanks. See if I can hit the right button again. Here we go, phase 2. Achieve the Army Learning Concept training for training and education, okay? A lot of stuff on this slide again. Increase IMI level where possible. But the big thing here is identify appropriate resources, contract vehicles, and technology to leverage in creation of IMIs and including SME participation. We need to get our people engaged in developing the lesson plans to be delivered in a virtual or DL fashion instead of just taking slides and saying, hey, this is our slide, okay, and going through it. So we need to change the training. We need to get engaged in that, and that's part of phase 2 here. Continue to modernize and update instruction to enable the Army Learning Concept. How'd we do? Okay, this is another really small slide, sorry. Okay, so again, 391 courses. We transitioned and built a digital platform for about 365 of them in 60 days. Now, that doesn't mean we're delivering 365 courses DL or virtual. It means that we've built the digital platform for them, okay? Which was a pretty big move when I said about 15,000 lesson plans we had to get on a digital platform in 60 days. So we had a big move. Everyone did a great job down there, okay? This is kind of another piece of our report card, and you'll see some of the challenges we had. Planning for surge of students. So there was that stop move order. And you might imagine that if they've slowed the pipe coming down to us, it's going to expand and we're going to have a surge. Also instructors were stopped. Okay, we weren't getting new instructors, and instructors that were due to rotate out, they weren't going anywhere until that stop move order was lifted. And as soon as it was lifted, it's like 40% of your instructor base gone. How are you going to take care of the people that are coming in? Luckily, we used the DL piece, and we were able to start teaching our inbound instructors and our inbound training developers before they ever got here, because we were online and teaching virtually, okay? Some of the other stuff here, discussion, currently capable of delivering 137 of 391 virtually. So we transitioned 360 plus, and we were able to deliver 137 of them in a virtual fashion. And what does that mean for the guy who's working on the gun? Remember the gun? What are we doing? This is how creative the people got. God bless them. They're putting GoPros on their head, and they're standing in the classroom, and they're talking through the lesson, and they're taking it apart piece by piece with a GoPro so that we can take that video and put it onto the blackboard, and so that when that student, that private, is sitting in the barracks, he can look at it. Why are we trying to do that? We can't just send them out after we look at it. But one of the biggest things for technical training, for things like that, is repetitions. You need to be able to get repetitions. Even a virtual repetition in your head is a repetition. So the more repetitions we can get for students who are learning technical training, the better off they're going to be, the deeper their learning is going to be. So that's how creative we're getting on some of that stuff. Okay? Another thing that we learned throughout this, the resource model that we have is not consistent with DL learning, teaching, environment. The resource model, it talks about what we call instructor contact hours. I'm in the classroom and I'm teaching you. That's an instructor contact hour. You get so much credit for that. Now, I've got to build your roster and set the classroom up. Those are called instructor actions. You get less credit for that, okay? That's in a resident environment. In a virtual environment, my contact hours are going to be diminished. But my instructor actions are going to go through the roof, because now you, sir, are in my class and you can't get online. I just became the help desk, and I got to help you figure out how to get into the classroom, right? You don't know how to use the message board. Now I got to help you do that, okay? We talk about breakout sessions because we want to make sure that we're building this environment of collaboration. So I'd put 6 breakout sessions in a class of 24 and break everyone into groups of 4. And I can't just, oh, whew, man, I got 20 minutes to sit back and relax now. Okay? No, I got to visit all the different collaborative rooms. So instructor actions increase. I start getting emails. If I'm the course lead, I start getting emails probably 2 weeks prior to the class, and they don't stop. And if I'm a course manager on something like that, my email box may have averaged around 30 or 40 because I could maintain it pretty well, and it just increased to about 100 or 150 because Mr. Wingo emailed me 7 times, and he's having trouble, and he needs some attention. So instructor actions increase. So we need to make sure that we're tending to that. Okay, Blackboard operational tests. We're lucky that we had great support from our higher ups, and we were picked to be an operational test site for a number of things. We did 4 courses in the beginning, probably starting in August of 2020 to explore the site. We gave feedback back, and then we did this course starting in October of last year, and we're finishing our operational tests. I don't say pilot because some trainers, pilot has a very specific meaning. So these are operational tests. I don't want to get into trouble, okay? So these are operational tests, and this kind of just shows how we went through that. We did all of this test. We've done all this test on Blackboard.com, okay? And this was our strategy. You can see up top here, one of the big things that we had to do was make sure that during our test, we had good output data. What were we looking to learn here? What were we looking to get out of this operational test? We wanted to make sure we had good data points, okay? What's the biggest concern that people have when they say, let's transition to DL? Anybody? Anybody? Hey, yeah.
Not being able to actually physically be able to do the task.
Yeah, so if it's task-oriented, task-based, sure, something like that. But we'll narrow that down because it can be education too, and we'll say losing the integrity of the learning outcome, okay? Because sometimes it's being able to put your hand on it, but sometimes it's a leadership thing too. Did you learn it or did it go away? Did you not learn it? So we want to make sure we don't lose the integrity of our learning outcomes. We want to maintain or increase. Okay, so that's got to be one of the outputs, right? How do soldiers learn? Dealing with all the different generations, they learn better using DL or not. That's got to be an output. And then what was the thing I just talked about? The difference between instructor actions and instructor contact hours. We helped develop a new virtual learning resource model, but we want to show data to support that. So through this operational test, we're trying to say how many hours do you spend in what would be considered an instructor contact hour? How many hours do you spend in an instructor action? What additional things are you doing so that we can help inform that and get to a better place? So that's kind of our output, okay? You can see currently when we started this is the NCO CE3 or NCO, the non-commissioned officer PME. There's two courses, an ALC, advanced leader course, and a senior leader course. And there's a common core piece. There's 55 hours of training that's common across the two courses, across the Army. So we targeted this because we wanted to try and find the best bang for our buck. If we can transition 55 hours and save that amount of time, boots on the ground, we're saving a ton of money, and we can build one product that's going to go across the whole Army instead of just, hey, let's take care of us, right? And so that's how we set out, and the Combined Arms Command, the general, he said, yeah, I want you out to do this test. And this is how we did it. We had a control group, they remained resident. And we had the test group, they arrived at the same time, and they took the first 4 or 5 days in the barracks, in the hotel, taking it from there and doing the virtual classes. There were no assessments, no quantitative assessments prior to this test for these courses. There were qualitative ones, leadership, inspections, things like that, go, no-go type of things. So we had to build an assessment bank as well, assessment strategy. That was another thing that we had to do. So we made sure that. So here's our initial findings. This was done in January after the first quarter. So some of the findings you'll see, DL learning content has met the same intended learning objectives. So we're not losing any of our learning objectives, right? We're not losing integrity there. When comparing examination scores, DL students scored higher over the first 3 pilots. Resident students closed the gap. Could have been that our TDers, our training developers, built the assessment strategy. They were also the same ones who were building the DL lessons. So they might have been a little biased, okay? The next piece, survey results from all pilots show similar positive feedback in both DL and resident student towards classroom, awareness of others, and information retention. So again, that's real good information. Survey results also indicate that students prefer resident instruction. I'll tell you that there's a caveat to that. Prefer resident instruction over virtual in areas of communication, team building, and building relationships. That sounds pretty reasonable. Generally speaking, though, again, the two courses, right? Advanced Leader course, read E6s trying to be E7s. Senior Leader course, read E5s trying to be E6s. A little bit younger. What we found, it's kind of weird, I don't know, okay? What we found was that the Senior Leader course, the E5s trying to be E6s, the ones that may be just a little bit younger, they enjoyed the DL more. They received the information more. Is that a generational thing? Probably don't have enough data, but it's kind of interesting to note, okay, that they enjoyed it a little bit better than the SLC, okay? Or the ALC. Overall, ALC prefers resident learning. That's what I was just talking about, okay? Here's the exam analysis. We had our ORSAs because we had some guys that are really smart with numbers and they're sitting around doing nothing. So we said, hey, here's a project for you, okay? And so we got them on this, and this is what they spit out. Does anybody understand this? It's that ORSA stuff, right? Basically what it's saying is we didn't have a really good number of 65%. That's the mean for the test score. A lot of it was because we didn't have one before. And we're trying to build it. And we're testing it and using it as we're developing it. So we talked about, there was a question earlier about evaluation, right? Formative and summative evaluation. While this is an assessment during the course, it should be kind of a formative type or a summative. Hey, what did you learn? We're also using it as a formative evaluation to say, well, how do we need to change the test? How do we make the test better and deliver it better? So we're doing that now. we're getting, the pilot is ending, but now our average score is up around 78. There's no significant difference between the resident and the, so the test case and the resident case. What I mean significant, the DL people, their average mean is about 79.2, and the resident people are about 78.5. So there's no real significant difference. I would say no difference. I was looking for plus or minus 3. I don't know, people who do research, a lot of times with null hypothesis, that's kind of your number, right? If you're doing a research project, if it's outside that 3, you didn't help yourself, right? So I was looking for more than 3 or less than 3. Obviously, more than 3 would be better, but we're within the acceptable standard, okay? Phew. Survey, did I miss one? No. Survey question 2, preference. Here's some of the information. On average, both DL and resident students prefer instructor-facilitated discussion. So that can be breakout sessions and you get together with an instructor. You want to make sure that it's synchronous. So they're preferring synchronous over asynchronous. We want to make sure that we're not doing soldier versus machine, right? Everybody's probably done some of that training and it's just not very useful because it's always like, next slide, next slide, next slide, next slide. Oh, I'll take the test. What's the question? Google. Okay, yep, got it. All right, B. Next question, Google. That's not helpful to anybody, right? So what we've done is, in this course, the way we set it up was, we went through and we built the modules virtually, and they have 3D modeling in them. They're IMI products. You go through and you'll do about 2 or 3 lessons a day, and at the end of the day, you have a 2-hour touch point. So the instructor gets on with you for 2 hours, and you go over the lessons that you did during the day. Okay, to make sure that there's retention, make sure that there's transference of knowledge. Okay? Question number 3, resource efficiency. This is great information for us to make sure that we're passing on. Also, most commonly used devices to complete the coursework. Hey, I want to let you know something. My eyes were opened to the reach and the challenges that people have across our country and across our force. Because when we went into this emergency response and we're starting to teach people, some of the problems that we were experiencing with our students were I never would have thought of, but they're real. So for instance, when they said stay home, they didn't just say stay home to the soldiers and the sailors and the force. They said stay home to everybody, right? The students, schools, everything. Husbands, wives, kids, all in the same house. And what are they all trying to do? They're all trying to get online, right? I don't know how many kids you got, but if you have 3, do you think you have 5 computers in your house? Maybe 5 TVs, but not 5 computers, right? So it's a battle to say who gets the computer to get online. And I'm the soldier, and I got to get online to take the training. And we're saying I can't get online at that time because my wife or my husband has to get online for their job. They're competing for time. You got a sign-up sheet in the house to get online. I never would have thought of that, but that's a real problem for us. Okay, how do we get there? Again, with Blackboard.com, it's open source, so you can use your phone. You can use a personal computer. You don't have to be on a government-issued computer. Okay, so there's multiple ways to get on. You can go down to the library if you want to and get on and take the class. For you Army guys, I just read the other day that they're doing Ranger School online. Did you hear that? So it's unbelievable. Yeah, we'll go through some of the comments on that later. It's really eye-opening. So second quarter pilots, right about just south of 2,000 students, 104 classes broken up across these components this way. So that's what we're doing in these 3 months. Again, we're wrapping up here with the pilot, the operational test phase of this. My mistake. Okay. Implementation strategy and feedback. There's some good stuff here. Reach learners at the point of need. That's the ecosystem now, right? We're trying to make sure we can reach the learners at the point of need. Rapid updates to content. Who was talking about that earlier? Somebody was saying, it was you guys, wasn't it? It's always changing. So you don't get solidified into one position because the technology is moving and updating doctrine with what we're doing out in their force. We're learning so much just watching what's happening over there in Europe today, aren't we? Just learning so much by just watching, okay? tracking learning status. I don't need to read these. Secure against threats. When I pushed out in March of 2020, that was one of my biggest concerns. Risk is okay, but in the in the Intel world, that's a big issue. And we talked about it a little bit here, Mr. Winger did earlier, and so that was our big concern. A lot of the policies that were out there for putting content on open source, some of the stuff I saw was in the 90s, okay? 2004, last update, and it's 2020. It's technology, not much has changed, right? We're probably solid, right? So immediately we went to TRADOC G2 and said, hey, you guys got to get on this because we're not the only ones making the move. You got to get on this right away to make sure that we're in secure platforms. Some of the stuff that we've developed along the way. Someone asked me, Mr. Brigadier asked me, we have a place at Fort Lee, which is the main headquarters, and down at Fort Jackson, which has the finance school and the adjutant general school. Okay, and so you'll see CASCOM Training Technology Division. That's at Fort Lee. And some of this stuff is pretty good, especially for your people, with the Blackboard. That's why we're here, right? Dramatic difference in bandwidth speed on .com versus .mil. Software related to functionalities, user interface on .com is always updated, but .mil is inconsistent. Okay, certificate manager on .mil is vital, more user-friendly than the .com. So there's a lot of good information here. You can see some of the courses that we've impacted here and software that we're using, what level of interactivity. So IMI, it's moderate. We're using Articulate 3 a lot, Storyline 3, and some of these classes we're doing, okay? And so this is again, can't update SCORM packages. We talked about SCORM earlier, right? Can't update SCORM packages without having to reestablish a new link to the course, okay? This is up at Fort Lee, and then this is what we have down at Fort Jackson. And they've done a pretty good side-by-side on comparisons. The one side is blackboard.mil, the other side is blackboard.com, and then same kind of structure for the different courses and how they've developed their courseware for them. Give you a minute to look that over. Any questions about these so far? Okay, moving on. Significant developments. What did we do during this process? What did we build? What did we have to do differently? Process developments. Okay, we developed what we're calling a distributed learning resource prioritization board. Everybody wants the new shiny thing. We only have so many resources. How do we figure out which shiny thing we work on first? Okay, there was no process in place. So we built a process. So quarterly we do this DLRPB, and everybody who has a nomination, they send it to us, and we make a determination, and it's the heads of the schools, heads of the proponent schools, and the deputy to the commanding general that leads it, okay? And so we take all these and we determine whether it's going to be a product that we want to work on in-house in one of those two, the training technology divisions that you just saw, whether we're going to develop it and work on it in-house, or whether we turn it over to our Army Virtual Learning Enterprise and have them work on it through their money, okay? So we'll make that determination. Leverage the ABLE contract process, develop a criteria and tool to determine viability of transitioning courses. I don't know about anybody else, but I know that we're living in a resource-constrained environment, right? I know that if we say we can move certain lessons or classes and reduce boots on the ground time, we're going to save money. But I don't want to do it haphazardly. So what we've done is we've developed a tool to say, okay, your course, not a good candidate. You're packing parachutes. We want them in there, okay? Your course, it's a leadership course. We could probably do part of that DL, okay? And then maybe another course, that whole thing can go on DL. It's just figuring out how to fill out paperwork, okay? Is it a task? Yeah, it's a task, but you can figure out how to do that paperwork online, virtually, synchronously, some type of hybrid that we're talking about. Maybe it's asynchronous and synchronous pieces, okay? So we come up with a tool to be able to run the courses through that and determine either by course level, by lesson plan, or even by learning objective. So we can make a determination because we want to be able to strategize. We don't want someone coming to tell us, hey, you're going to lose these courses next year because there's not enough money. We want them to say, here's your bill. Here's the Army bill, and here's your part of the bill. We want our general to be able to make decisions about risk. And we want him to be able to say, okay, to meet that bill, we're going to get rid of that course, but we're going to transition these 2 other courses, and we'll save this much money, so we've met our need. We want to be able to put ourselves in a place to be able to say, sir, here's where our recommendation is. Okay? Holistic review of all assigned courses to help determine forward strategy, which is what I was just talking about. Okay, new faculty and staff development courses. I asked the question earlier. Okay, we developed a number of courses, a distance learning or distributed learning instructor course to teach people how to teach in this environment. Okay, we also did an advanced training developer course to teach people how to use Articulate and some of these other publishing platforms and software to make sure they could build the IMI. We had a lot of those instructional designers. Skills had atrophied, so we need to make sure that we brought them back into currency, okay? And then storyboard design development course. Again, that's another course for them to help develop those things. All right, infrastructure development. Each school developed a technology and education center. Each school now has a center that you can go to that has all of that coursework and courseware on there. So there's Articulate, there's all those things, Storyline, all that stuff. They can go in there and start building those things instead of having to wait for us, the headquarters, to do it. So they can do it. We've force multiplied. Headquarters level training technology division, they didn't give us any money for that. We took that out of Hyde. We built that on our own because it was a critical part of our mission, okay? Position descriptions, I talked about that. And then this virtual learning resource model. We helped develop that. It's already up through the TRADOC, the MACOM, the Major Command, up into the Secretariat level, and we're looking to try and get that approved. That's critical to our forward motion because people are afraid. They're afraid of saying, if I transition this course to be a DL course, I'm going to lose 3 of my 5 instructors because they're not here. And so when you ask them how many courses can you transition, they say none. I was on a call, I swear, I was on a call. It was a TRADOC call, and Helen Remley, former there, and so she was pushing this. How many people, how many COEs can transition courses? Fire Center, 0. Intel Center, 0. Sustainment Center, we can transition 137. What? Now, come on, you're crazy. No way. Cyber Center, 0. Special Operations Center, 0. Medco, medical COE, we can transition 42. There was only 2 COEs that were willing to move out. Only 2 of 10. Because they're all saying, no, that virtual resource model, that's not out there. And so if I transition people, I'm gonna lose half my instructors. I got 0. So we gotta change that mentality some, okay? And that's gonna help. All right, lessons learned. I'm gonna go through these really quick. Is anyone getting tired? Am I running out of time? I'm running out of time? Then it'll be really quick, okay? I'll go. This is just kind of building the community of inquiry and how we need to train in this facility, in this area, okay? I guess these slides will probably be made available. I'm going through it really fast. See how fast I'm going? Look at this. Check it out. You got all that stuff, right? This is really building the community and building the environment, the ecosystem. We talked about how to teach in a virtual environment. This is something critical that we learned. It's different teaching in a virtual environment than it is teaching in resident. And so you have to be prepared for that, because what happens is if you send people to a DL course and you don't present it and deliver it properly, the mentality is going to remain the same. Man, that sucked. I didn't get anything out of it. But it can be so much better with practice and with learning how to do this right here, okay? So digitally enhanced learning community, ecosystem of 2035, that's what we're all talking about, right? Final thoughts. Develop and maintain a constant, pervasive technology-based ecosystem. That's what we all need to do. And it has to be constant, it has to be pervasive. You have to be able to get on it. It can't be breaking out all the time, okay? Prepare resourcing, proper resourcing, not a one-size-fits-all solution. Recognize risk, be patient, and resilient at the same time. And here's the big one I always say, communicate, communicate, communicate. It's different in resident than it is in DO. Okay, so here's my little trick at the end. These boxes, they're one of those things where if you hit it with your phone, it takes you right to our Army Sustainment Resource Portal, and you'll be able to see all of our products, digital products that are out there. We've got 3D stuff out there, virtual modeling, all kinds of stuff. Feel free, hit that. Did it work? Check it out. I'm gonna go home and clap those guys on the back and say, thank you. Okay, guess what? I finished, I'm done. Questions and comments? Sorry it took long. Everyone stayed awake there, that was really cool.
Couple of quick questions. I see one right over here.
Hey, while we're waiting, I apologize for running through those slides, but time, and so you guys looked a little droopy back there, little
My
eyes.
voice isn't good enough yet. No. Howard Mason, JID TC. This is two questions. One is an easy one.
I love easy ones.
Tests. Did you train your developers to develop tests directly into Blackboard, or are they doing it in Articulate and then importing it into Blackboard?
So we've done both of those, right? And so on the .mil, a lot of those are developing right in Blackboard, okay? And the way the test control works, you want to do 100 questions, and it's going to randomly select 20 each time. So you're not getting the same test as that person. It's going to random. And there's not an A, B, and C set either. It just randomly grabs it. So we built that in Blackboard also. But then for the Blackboard.com, we did some of that in Articulate. We built the assessments for the operational tests.
Second question has to do with roles inside Blackboard.
Yeah.
And doing a crosswalk between the roles that you have for instructors and developers within your environment, who develops what, versus the roles that are available inside Blackboard, as far as who's the guest, who's the grader, facilitator, and
Yeah.
so forth. How did you do that crosswalk?
So that was a great question, and that was one of the bigger challenges for us because some of that stuff is. Do you like Coke or Pepsi?
I'm a Dr. Pepper guy.
Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect because what happens is we've been using .mil and we're working on .mil, and there's a course manager spot in there, and we can give them authority to go and do the tests, but the instructor, not so much. We don't want the instructor going in and changing tests or going in and making changes to it. The .com, they're not called course manager and instructor, or it's instructor, so you have to. It's like talking some different language, and it's just different language that we need to get used to, and so we built a whole SOP on how the hierarchy was. And it was important to us because, I don't know who's familiar with TDC, Training Development Capabilities Platform. It's very structured on what hierarchy is and what roles you have, and we tried to use that as a model. And we struggled with that, but it's very clear, and so it was a very clear, concise way to develop the hierarchy, and so we had some challenges, but it worked out pretty well. We're doing okay with it. Yeah, good question. Yes, sir.
So you talked a little bit about your demographics that you serve, soldiers and civilians within the platform, and so I'm just curious how you potentially authenticated users coming into the system.
Yeah. So again, one of the big challenges that we have with .com and is limiting our leveraging the platform is that you can't put any IL4 or FOU. It's got to be all open source stuff, and that's our challenge. That's a limiter for us right now. And so the .mil, obviously, you got to have CAC, and it's all CAC enabled. So we're identifying easily there. Okay, and the rest of the stuff is open source. And so it goes through, you got to check in each day. There's no real, it could be that, you could take my test for me, if you wanted to. And so we have controls in place to do that. That's our biggest concern is the testing piece and trying to get to that IL4 FOUO piece. Because some of the, as you get up above, the higher levels of PME, we got general officers and senior executives in there talking to colonels and lieutenant colonels and the captains sometimes. And, technically, when they start talking, it automatically puts them out of the loop, and we can't put them on that stuff. And so that's a limiter for us that we need to, that I know that that Blackboard and Anthology is working on, so we're trying to work together on that.
You mentioned .mil, so that's basically Nipper.
Yeah.
Did you have to deal with zippers?
I'm sorry?
I'm on a contract that we had to do cross-pollinations
Yeah.
between zippers and nippers and all
Okay.
that. Did you have to deal with that?
We don't. We have very little information that needs to be put on a zipper. The Intelligence Center, that's their life out there, in Fort Huachuca. And so I would offer to talk to Val here. She may be able to shed some light on that. That's what's going on out there and how they manage that going to the SIPR. Oh, no, you asked everyone else questions. You can't ask me a question. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Last two questions right here.
You talked about instructor activities going through the roof. Was there any place where you were able to automate an instructor activity that really paid dividends for you?
Any place, I understand the question to be any place that we were able to automate instructor actions that save time.
Yes, if there's like one that stood out as far as this was, you talked about contact and then instructor actions. Your instructor actions went up. Was there something that you were able to automate on the instructor action side to sort of buy some of that time back?
Yes, there are but it also presents those things are always double-edged sword, right? And so there's a good point to it and an opportunity. I'm being positive again. An opportunity, right? A challenge. And so in that instance, loading a roster of 200 students into a course because you build a course shell for class 2201, okay? And now I got 200 lieutenants that I got to put in there and then further split them out into different subclasses, okay? .mil interacts well with ATARS, which is the management system for training. .com does not interact well. So that's an opportunity for us to nail that down better. I can't do, or I have trouble doing a batch upload into the .com. And so we had to work our way through that. Once we were able to do that, then that saved time. Yeah.
Hi, Rich Stoner, Naver. I was just curious what, if any, interactions you've had with ADL and if there's lessons learned from, total learning architecture, SCORM or XAPI integrations and what they're trying to do at a big federal level that you were able to accomplish at CASCOM.
So that's going to be a good conversation, and I know they're trying to get moving forward, but that's fine. And so just quickly, like I mentioned about the SCORM, you have to reload to put new SCORM stuff on there, but it's pretty receptive. Both the .mil and the .com are receptive to what we did and the builds that we did. And so we did virtual stuff, virtual environment. We did 3D modeling. So no problems like this. How you publish it, I think, is a lot of the game. So how you get there to be ready to incorporate it.
Perfect, thank you. Hey, David.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your attention. Thanks.
Sir, thank you very much.
Oh,
I present you with this
thank
certificate.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Great
Thanks.
job, Alan.
Thanks.
Thank you very
Yep.
much.